I had a busy week this week. I was traveling to visit some family, and I came home early because I had a talk to write. And that tends to be a process for me. And I had class this weekend. Did you know that ministerial students don't get summers off? I didn't know that, but I do now. So I had a weekend-long class to prepare for. I had a talk to prepare for. I had been traveling, so I needed a little bit of downtime and rest. So I had a very busy week, a very busy weekend, didn't turn the TV on at all, pretty much stayed off of social media. And this morning I sat down with my coffee and I thought, I should just check and make sure the world's not on fire before I stand up there and give a talk. Sit down, have my coffee, not your mom's coffee. I love her. I do not love her coffee. And luckily I was on my phone and not my iPad. And I just start to scroll. Holy shnikes. And the more I scroll, the more I am convinced that this world is a dumpster fire and we are screwed. And I thought, now I'm going to go give a Sunday talk of inspiration and joy. So I put down my coffee, I put down my telephone, and I did what we do. I went straight within. I went straight to spirit within. I went straight to truth. Right here, right now, truth. And God said, y'all argue with God too, right? In your heads? I'm not the only one. I can't possibly be the only one. God said, chuck it all and start over again. And I said, oh, hell no. That, beloved spirit, is not my process. And God said, it is today. And I thought, y'all might have had some time to process what's been going on this weekend and come to terms with it within yourselves. For those of you who might still be in a bit of a swirl about it, a mental swirl, an emotional swirl, curiosity about where we're headed and how we're going to get there, this talk is for you. And if you are not in that swirl, this talk is for you because we are just over 100 days out from a very important election. And we are all involved in that. If you are here in America today and all around the world, Debbie in Germany, you know how the consciousness here affects the entire world. So we are all involved. We all don't have a choice but to be informed, included, and active in what is happening. So this morning, I realized that what I needed today is I needed for us to get really real. I needed us to get really real. And so since that's what I need, that's what you're getting. Congratulations. I'm going to be 100% honest. I'm appalled at what is happening in our country. I have been for a while. I can't stand up here and pretend that I'm not angry, I'm not scared, and I'm not experiencing a good bit of righteous anger. And I'll just let you know right now, I don't like what happens in my body when I'm in any of those states. And it's actually what's happening in my body that helps me to recognize that these are the states that I'm in and help me to understand that there's something else that I can do about it. I don't think there's any coincidence that a person who repeatedly calls for violence had violence inflicted on him this weekend. This is how consciousness works. When we see the world through a lens of victimhood, violence, and us versus them, then that is the world that we experience and that is the world that we experience. This is how consciousness works. I'm not saying anything was his fault. I am saying that there is a balance to the universe of give and take. And if we stand in violence and for violence, we perpetrate violence. But the same is true of peace. When we stand in peace, when we see the world through a lens of peace, that consciousness is perpetrated. And it takes courage. And it takes togetherness. But the life that we see is the life that we experience. We're going to dig into this a little bit. And we're going to see how we can make some shifts and some pivots so that we can have a positive impact on the world. So here's the thing. We all have some basic needs that are rooted in our childhood. We all have psychological needs, we all have physical needs, and we all have spiritual needs. We all need to feel safe. Basic human need that all of us share. We all need to feel loved. Every single one of us needs to feel loved. And we all need to feel connected. We need to feel connected to each other, and we need to feel connected to something greater than us. Safety, love, and connection. These are our basic human needs, and getting these needs met is survival. It's important. And it is ingrained in us. It's ingrained in our physiology. It's ingrained in our emotions. It's ingrained in our everything to get these three needs met. Safety, love, connection. We all, every single one of us, developed certain strategies when we were children to get these needs met. Some of these strategies still work for us. I eventually learned how to ask to have my needs met. It's a strategy that I was taught. That strategy still works for me, right? I also developed a strategy because I was raised in a culture and in a family where children were to be seen and not heard. And so in order to get my needs met, I had to manipulate the world around me because I couldn't ask directly in some circumstances. Guess what? That strategy doesn't work for me anymore. I'm a grown-up. People don't like to be manipulated. I don't like to be manipulated. So that strategy needed to go by the wayside, right? This is how we operate. This is just basic human nature. All of us do it. All of us do it. So some of our strategies still serve us. Some of them need to be examined. But these needs that we have, they drive our behaviors. The needs are what drive our actions. And we are seeing a lot of unconscious needs being acted out in the world. We can't not see it. Most of our behaviors that stem from our needs, most of it is unconscious and automatic, y'all. It's just human nature. The problem comes when we aren't committed to look at it, when we aren't surrounded by people who help us to look at it, right? And when we inflict those needs in unhealthy ways on the people around us. That's when we get in trouble. We're seeing a lot of people reacting in the world in hurtful and violent ways from there to get their needs met or what they think their needs met. And here's what's really scary about that. Let's just name it. I can't do anything about that. Let me rephrase that. I feel helpless when I see it in the world. Do you know what I mean? And do you know what the difference is between I can't do anything and I feel helpless? No. I feel helpless has a tiny element of opening for something that can help. Saying, I feel helpless, just saying it out loud allows me access to ask what can help. What can help? So the shift that I am learning to make is to move out of, I can't do anything about that. I'll just wait and vote and cross my fingers and hope everything turns out okay. That's hopelessness. But it's perfectly okay for me to name my experience and to name my feelings. I feel helpless here. Oh, am I helpless? Is there something that can help? Where is God in this, by the way? Very different from, I can't do anything about that. And so I'd like for us to talk about today what we, in the context of spiritual community and in the context of our spiritual life, what can we do when we are experiencing that feeling of helplessness? That's my name for it. You might be experiencing something else. For me, it shows up as helplessness. So where do we start? I told you earlier that our basic needs drive our behaviors, but that is actually only partially true. There are several other factors that determine our behaviors, but most of them kind of boil down to two things: our basic fundamental needs, safety, love, connection, and our values. Our values. Needs and values drive our behaviors. They drive our actions. So behind every action is a need or a value or both. What are our values? Values are simply our discernment of what is important in life. What do you value? I value integrity. I value peace. I value compassion. I value connection. I value love. I value authenticity. Reverend Shannon has a tattoo on her wrist. It says truth. She values truth. Jen, what do your tattoos say? Truth sayer. Jen values truth, and she values expression of truth. She's a truth teller, right? So what do you value? On her Dare to Lead website, Brene Brown has a list of over 100 values. 100 values, things like compassion, love, truth, authenticity. Thriftiness is a value. There are all kinds of values, and each of us hold a different set of values. And so each of us have a different hierarchy of values. For me, integrity has always been number one, and right on its heels is loyalty. Integrity and loyalty, just right there. Someone in here might have love and thriftiness as their top two values of honoring the earth and being a good steward of the things that you've been given, you know? All values are valid, and none are better or worse than others. We all get to hold our set of values. Well, 10, 20, 15 years ago, I did a workshop for families where families came together, parents and kids. We all got together and we figured out what our family values were. We went through a series of processes that I designed, and then we all got together and we made a poster with our family values, and we put our handprints on it, and we brought it home. Michael and I and John, we brought it home and we put it on the wall. Our family values: kindness, peace, joy, adventure, integrity, authenticity. These are our family values. And then whenever we were having a family, we could say, wait a minute, where are we out of alignment with our values, and how can we get back into alignment with our values? Our value is kindness. Maybe I'm not being very kind right now. It was a great tool for our family. It was a really great tool for our family until the one day we were on a family to hike. Was it Eagle Crest? Eagle Creek. Eagle Creek. There's this section, beautiful, out in the Columbia River Gorge, and there's this section of the hike where the path is about this wide. Okay, it's probably like this wide, but I'm a mom, and I was with my 6-year-old. So the path was this wide, and there's a rope that you hold on to get across the path. So we stop. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? You know that spot. So we stop right before that, and I'm preparing to give John instructions. Okay, honey, in order to be safe, we're going to hold onto the rope with both hands, and we're just going to do 1 foot at a time. I'm going to go in front of you, and your dad's going to go behind you, and we're going to cross this safely. As I'm starting to open my mouth, this cloud of, I think we call them midges. They're just these little flying bugs, and they like nip at you a little bit, and this cloud of them comes up. John freaks out and runs across the ledge like this. He made it. After I was done having my panic attack, Michael went across the thing, dragged John back, and we went home, got the Sharpie, and crossed adventure off of our list. Adventure is no longer one of our family values. We value peace. We value safety. It's simple, though. It's simple. When I'm centered in my values, I make good choices. I make the healthy choice. I make the peaceful choice. I make the loving choice. And when I'm out of alignment with my values, I can use my values to bring me back. It's a great tool. Become aware of what you value. What are your personal values? What are your partner's values? What does your boss value? If your boss values loyalty and you value authenticity, y'all might have some conversations to have about what loyalty looks like to them and what authenticity looks like to you. You know, like it's a great tool to have in your tool belt. But what happens when our needs and our values are out of alignment with each other? What then? What happens when my need for integrity, or rather my need to feel safe, bumps up against my value of integrity? Do I tell the little white lie so I can feel safe? Or do I stand in my integrity to be in alignment with my truth? This is the human condition, y'all. All of us experience it. All of us are tempted to do the tiny things to feel safe because that is what we are conditioned in our bodies, in our minds, and our hearts to need. Our souls have a different need. Our souls need to be in alignment with our values and with spirit. So living from our values is living in alignment. And as we mature and as we grow, that becomes easier for us. So, to recap, needs plus values equals behaviors. You with me so far? Are you with me so far? Okay, great, thank you. Whew, because I didn't want to do all that again. So what do we do? What do we do? What do we do when somebody else's needs and values are creating behaviors that are making our life difficult? What do we do when someone else's needs and values are creating active harm? And what do we do with the vast amount of information that is coming at us? How do we stay centered and calm and sane and aligned with our values when we're in the midst of what feels like a storm? Because it does, it feels like a storm at times, doesn't it? Yeah. And we know that that storm is affecting some people disproportionately than others. And we're scared for us, and we're really scared for them. So what do? Number one, up your practice. Up your practice. Y'all, if you don't yet have a meditation practice, go into YouTube, go into Insight Timer, and find a 5-minute meditation. And just do it. Just start somewhere. If you have a regular practice, it is time to up your game. Add 5 minutes to your practice. Look at some of the beautiful spiritual practices that Reverend Shannon teaches us and teaches us in our meditation retreats. What's something new that you could add that might move you out of your comfort zone just a little bit and make you more available to a greater truth to be known? It is time for every single one of us to up our practice. Come to the meditation chair to know yourself. Come to the meditation chair to know spirit. Come to the meditation chair to anchor in with infinite power so that you can befriend it. So that you can wake up on Sunday morning and have a conversation with it and argue with it and know you are safe and loved the whole time. Come to the meditation chair for this. Let all of this fall away for just a few minutes and come into contact with the truth behind what you see. You see, that's what our practice is for. So number one, we up our practice. Number two, and I have said this before, but I needed to hear it again today. So maybe some of you do too. Look, you can only do what you can do. And only you can do what you can do. I had an anthropology teacher years ago in the 90s in college, and she was a biology anthropologist. And so she studied the biology of ancient things. And it was a fascinating class, but one of the things that she taught me, two things that I remember. One is our skin cells and coffee cells are almost identical. So for some of us, coffee replaces our skin. 1992, Brian, and I apparently will never forget that unimportant fact. But number two, she said, we all need to be aware that psychologically we are still basically cave people. And cave people are barely evolved enough to understand what happens when we stub our toe. We are almost evolved enough to understand what happens when our neighbor stubs their toe. We have no coping mechanisms for the amount of information that comes at us 24 hours a day. That's what she said. I don't know that I believe that word for word, but I do know that I don't always feel capable of coping with the amount of information that is coming at me all day, every day. We were built to be clan people, and we are now a global people. And our brain systems haven't quite caught up with that yet. And so a little bit of compassion there. So here's the thing. When we feel unsafe, and a lot of the information that comes at us can make us feel unsafe. It makes me feel unsafe. And when we feel unsafe, we have a basic response that every single one of us share: fight, flight, or fawn, right? So when we're sitting in front of our TV, what happens is we get information, we start to feel unsafe, and when we feel unsafe, our body prepares us to do something by flooding our system with hormones. But when I'm sitting on the blue couch, there is nobody to fight, y'all. except the dog, and he does not want to fight. There's nowhere to go, and there's nothing to do. So I am just left there with a body filled with stress hormones. That is bad for our hearts, both physically and emotionally. So what do we do with that? What do we do with that? I'm going to give you a little tool that I use that I call the 3x3 process. It's a 3x3 process, and it's a breathing tool. The breath is the easiest way for us to come back into center. So what happens? I'm going to invite you to take 3 really good deep breaths. And as you take these 3 breaths, you're going to just kind of reset your mind. In this moment, I am safe. 3 breaths. With your next 3 breaths, you're going to reset your body. I will do what is mine to do when the moment arises. But for now, I breathe. And then with the next 3 breaths, you simply recenter yourself in spirit. Reverend Shannon taught us last week, God is right here. Love is right here. Peace is right here. 3x3. It's that simple. We reset our bodies, and breathing allows our bodies to have a chance to let all of those stress hormones go. And then the next set of breaths, it allows our hearts, those emotions that should only last 90 seconds, right? 3 breaths allows them to flush through. And then 3 breaths to center ourselves in our bodies, to locate ourselves in spirit. 3x3. I am safe. I will do what is mine to do when the time is right. God is right here. Love is right here. Easy peasy, easy peasy. 3x3. So, number 1, up our practice. Number 2, here's a practice. 3x3. And number 3, I'm going to make a really unreasonable request right now. As if asking you to meditate isn't already unreasonable. I know. I'm going to ask you for the next 100 days to consider realigning your values around peace. I'm going to ask you to consider bumping peace up to the top of your list just for 100 days. If you don't like it, you can bump it right back down. But I'm making this request from the depths of my mother heart that just wants to nurture all of us. All of us. I'm making this request from the part of me that wants to help create a kinder and gentler world for myself and my children. I'm wondering if we could consider making peace our guiding value for 100 days, to make peace our guiding value when we're in conversation with someone, to make peace our guiding value when we vote, to make peace our guiding value when we spend our money, to make peace our guiding value every time we pick up the phone, to make peace our guiding value. And I don't mean The kind of peace that is, hold your tongue so you don't rock the boat. That's not peace. I'm not talking about the kind of peace that says, well, that's the way it is, so I guess that's the way it's going to be. That's resignation. That's not peace. The kind of peace that I'm talking about is fierce, y'all. The kind of peace that I'm talking about is strong. It holds the highest vibration of love for all of creation. All of creation. The kind of peace I'm talking about does not sit down and shut up. It is bold and it is bright and it is beautiful. And we all deserve to live in this kind of peace. And we undermine that peace. We undermine that peace every time we engage in Schadenfreude. That's when we find joy in someone else's suffering. There is no place for that in peace. And when I recognize that in myself, and I see it sometimes, but we have to have the courage to call it what it is. It is victim consciousness that perpetrates suffering. I have no desire for anyone to suffer. My desire is for peace. We undermine the peace every time we choose to turn away from oppression. We are enabling oppression when we just turn away. We undermine peace when we insulate ourselves from what is going on around us in an effort to avoid what is out there. And we undermine peace when we immerse ourselves in what's going on out there in an effort to avoid what's in here. These are some of the ways that we undermine peace. So let's stop it. We don't have to live this way. We do not deserve to live this way. We can't keep doing the same old things and expecting different results. If we want to experience peace, in our lifetime, it starts here. It starts now, and it starts with us. Eleanor Roosevelt said, "It isn't enough to talk about peace. One must believe in it. And it isn't enough to believe in it. One must work at it." So how do we work at peace? We work at it the exact same way we work at everything else. We look for all the places where we're not experiencing peace, and we bring the peace to those places. We remind ourselves to choose peace. We put our affirmations around the house. We meditate on peace. We walk with peace. We examine all of the places within us that don't yet know peace. We ask the people around us to remind us when our behaviors and our words aren't peaceful and kind. We get serious about choosing peace. In the next 100 days, we're going to have lots of wonderful opportunities to do something. We are going to write postcards and remind people to vote. We are going to email our representatives about issues that are important to us. We're going to have some hard conversations with people about what's at stake. And we are going to vote like our democracy depends on it. Because it does. But do you see the power of what can happen when all of us do these things that we do from a place of peace, from a place that knows peace and is committed to peace and wants peace for all? The power of a people to stand in the truth of the one love that is everywhere present. Imagine voting from love. Imagine loving ourselves and our neighbor so fiercely that peace becomes the automatic way that we move in the world. You were meant for peace. You were meant for peace. I am meant for peace. The world will know peace because you will bring peace to the world. It's really that simple. Peace in our lifetime will happen because you are the way shower. You are the change maker. You are the peace builder. So the invitation this week is recognize when your behaviors are out of alignment with your values and be the peace bringer. Number 2, when you're feeling off kilter, if you're feeling off kilter, maybe you just tiptoe through life and nothing throws you off kilter, and bless your shoes. My shoes need help sometimes. 3 by 3. 3 breaths for your body to let those hormones go. 3 breaths for your heart to let the feelings go. And 3 breaths to realign and center with spirit. And number 3, make peace your way. And let's watch the world transform, shall we?